Hey everyone, I want to talk about how to know if you're not coping with stress. So, one of the things I see all the time in my work is stressed out women, burnt out women, and all the hormonal problems that come with that. So, one of the first signs that I see is that, particularly for women who are working, and it doesn't have to be just working women, it can be stay at home mums, etc. But I see it a lot in working women, particularly in the office, is that you end up talking about work a lot, about the problems going on at work. After work, you're talking about it. Maybe when you go for after work drinks, you're all talking about the politics in the office and all the problems, and you take it home with you and you talk about it there, or you talk about it with your friends. And so it preoccupies your mind as your mind is trying to process it. And so I see that as a really big sign that you're not coping with stress. Like, I remember years ago when I worked in an office and I was struggling with something at some point. And I remember this woman saying to me, because I was talking about it so much, and she said, "You're really not coping with it, are you?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm not." And so it's a really big sign that if you find yourself talking about work a lot, that perhaps there's some stress there that you haven't managed. And I know that everyone's different, and some people are really quiet. They really hold their stress and their tension in, so they don't share. Okay, so that could be another kind of the flip side, is that maybe you hold it all in, but you're thinking about it constantly. Okay, and it may even show up in your dreams. Like, I have some women say that they have these crazy weird dreams, and they're dreaming about work and things like that. So the mind will always try to process things and tries to get our attention. So it's normally a good sign that we're not coping with things. The other sign that we're not coping with stress is that we have constant feelings of overwhelm, of anxiety, of even anger and irritability. So if you're at work, this will impact your work. If you're feeling overwhelmed, you're sitting down to do something, but you can't really think straight because you're just feeling overwhelmed. You can't take more on. You're probably not producing your best work and not being very productive either. So when you're overwhelmed, productivity really goes down. Like, I kind of have a general rule for myself. When I feel overwhelmed, I stop working. And I know that probably seems like a luxury, but I actually think being overwhelmed and trying to work is a luxury we don't have, because when we're overwhelmed or anxious, our productivity goes down. We don't have the same quality of ideas. We can't problem solve. It just makes everything harder, and we're more prone to making mistakes that we have to go back and revisit and redo. So if you have constant feelings of anxiety, of overwhelm, of anger or irritability, maybe things that you haven't noticed before. So maybe you're just losing it really easily at work, whereas you didn't before. Okay, and maybe you wake up overwhelmed in the morning. You kind of as soon as you open your eyes, your to-do list is going off, and it creates that sense of pressure and urgency that you've got to get things done immediately, and that can kind of last all day. So that's another sign. And the third sign is kind of the physical symptoms. Like the brain fog. You could be binge eating in order to cope with stress. You could be drinking. I have women say that. They'll have a glass of wine or a bottle of wine every night, and that's an indication that they're not coping. If we need that reward thing, then we're not coping with the day's events, and we're probably using it to buffer the next day's events because we know what's coming up. So, if you find yourself drinking more often, or you find yourself snacking on foods that, binge eating, so kind of coming home in the afternoon or at night and just, feel like you could eat the entire pantry and not be satisfied. And having brain fog and having aches and pains. I have some women say that they just feel so stiff and sore, and headaches, and those kinds of symptoms. Okay, so what can you do about it? So once we're not managing stress, recently the World Health Organization called burnout a medical condition, or recognized burnout as a medical condition due to unmanaged stress. And they said unmanaged stress in the workplace. But I think it can be anywhere, because if you haven't managed your stress, whether you're working in an office, whether you're running your own business, whether you're a stay-at-home mum, then it will have an impact, because your mind will be constantly trying to process it, which will be tripping up the fight or flight response. So most of our stress today is mental and emotional stress. And that's having an impact on our nervous system, on our hormones, on our outlook on life, on our energy, vitality, our health, our weight, everything, okay? So one of the things is that once we are in this stress state, our nervous system becomes hypersensitive. Okay, and so if we haven't managed our stress and eating well and sleeping more and things like that, if we've just let it run and we haven't done anything, then we're going to become more hypersensitive to stress, which means that you'll feel like little things stress you out. You know, something really small could happen and it feels like a big deal, or every problem that arises feels like, you know, you have a meltdown, or it's kind of like panic stations, you know, and so that's an indication that the nervous system is not coping with the stress in our environment. And so that happens when we've had chronic long-term stress, okay? And it's really frustrating because you end up feeling anxious and really, really stressed all the time, and it feels like you can never kind of bounce back because you're always feeling stressed. So one of the things that I recommend, and just a nutritional thing, it's really, really simple, is to add some more carbohydrates back to your daily menu, okay? And I know carbohydrates gets a really bad rap, but when we're stressed and our adrenals, which are our stress glands, have been working overtime, then the best thing that we can do is provide more carbohydrates to relax the adrenals and relax the nervous system. So if you've ever had a lot of carbohydrates and you go into like a carb coma, that's the effect on your body, okay? It allows your body to relax. And so things like even oats in the morning and porridge, which contain a lot of B vitamins, which are really good for the nervous system, would be a really good way to start the day, and adding some protein to it so that way your blood sugar levels are balanced. But there's many things that you can do to build up your resistance and tolerance and heal your body so you can heal your nervous system and your adrenals, and basically not feel so stressed, you know, have normal levels of stress and normal levels of anxiety, you know, and just have a lot more energy and feel well. So I recommend adding carbohydrates. Obviously there's good carbs or healthier choices in carbohydrates, looking at your whole foods and whole grains rather than, you know, there's a big difference between eating a banana and eating a chocolate bar. So, you know, it's common sense kind of stuff. So look, if you want to know more, if you're feeling burnt out, if you're feeling like you're always tired, you wake up tired, it doesn't matter how much sleep you get, maybe you feel more tired in the morning than what you did at night, maybe you can stay up late, and you feel anxious and your moods are low, you don't feel like you have that drive anymore, you just don't feel like yourself anymore, then I'm running a masterclass where I'm going to talk all about this and what's happening with our hormones and why it's not being picked up and detected, and really go through the exact plan of what you need to do in order to get your energy back, get your spark back, get your vitality back, lose weight, you know, sleep more and all of that kind of stuff. So I'll put the link with this video, so just click on the link, it's free to join, and I hope to see you there. Bye for now.